An Introduction to Herman Melville. Herman Melville lived from 1819 to 1891. He was raised a Calvinist. This religion taught him that man is inherently evil and can only achieve redemption by God's grace, not through his own works. As Melville aged, though, he became less religious and instead just maintained the idea of humans as inherently evil. He believed that evil was a major force in the world, but that it was a human force, not an exterior force. This is an idea he shared with Nathaniel Hawthorne. Herman's mother was somewhat unloving, so he often felt like an unwanted outsider. His father was a failure as a businessman and died when Herman was only 13. At age 20, he went to sea in the Merchant Marine. He joined up in Liverpool, but not before being struck by the abject poverty there. In a moment of charity, even though he was certainly not rich, he tried to help out a homeless mother. He later learned, however, that both the mother and her children had died of starvation or illness. This incident formed in him the idea that good couldn't really win out in this world, that good acts were doomed from the start, and that an individual can't do much in the face of suffering. Therefore, he believed that the forces of death are stronger than the forces of life. Obviously, this is a very depressing and pessimistic view of the world. While in the South Pacific, Melville left the ship he was on in the Marquesas and decided to live with a native tribe there. This native tribe practiced cannibalism as one of the things that they did. He generally enjoyed his life there, but did not practice cannibalism. After a few years, he returned to New York and wrote the book Typee about his life with the savages. It was a bestseller, getting him into a decent middle-class lifestyle. He wrote a few more novels in that particular theme. They did pretty well, but not a lot of money was made from them. They were also considered light on literary quality by most of the critics of the time. Although we're not reading Melville's famous novel, Moby Dick, it is important to talk about because Billy Budd is, in many ways, a response to the ideas he was dealing with in Moby Dick. He began writing Moby Dick around the time he became friends with Hawthorne. It was initially meant to be just another sailing adventure story, but Hawthorne encouraged him to make it an allegory with much deeper symbolism. His friendship with Hawthorne lasted about 2 years. They've shared a lot of similar views on the world. Melville also wanted Hawthorne to help him get a good-paying government job because despite his success as a writer, he still wasn't making much money. Hawthorne ultimately couldn't deliver, and so their contact slowly faded away. Moby Dick is considered by many to be the greatest American novel ever written. Its themes are important to understand. Now, some of what we're going to discuss right now is a bit of a spoiler for the novel Moby Dick, so if you plan on reading Moby Dick, you might want to skip this section of the lesson. Within the novel, Ishmael is the main character. At least he says, "Call me Ishmael." This is a biblical name. In the Bible, it was Abraham's orphaned son, the one who was turned away. Ishmael comes into contact with two main characters while on the ship. His roommate, Queequeg, who is a savage, a cannibal, who came aboard the ship in order to provide for his tribe. While first he's apparently repugnant, he actually ends up being a good-hearted person. He represents the heart, humanity, the instinctual. Captain Ahab is chasing the whale that had previously bitten off his leg. Ahab represents the ego. He wants to be able to control nature, in this case the whale. He chooses this destructive ego path and is killed in the process. When they harpoon the whale, his leg gets caught in the cord and he goes overboard. The whale then attacks the boat and sinks it. Ishmael is the only one who survives, because Queequeg had created a coffin for himself, and this is the only piece of the boat that comes afloat for Ishmael to cling to. This conflict over whether one is controlled by the baser instincts, the heart, or the ego, the mind or reason or the control of nature, is a major theme for Melville.